Hey guys, welcome. Wanted to kind of get onto YouTube and share with you guys something that I just recorded on my Ableton live stream. So what you're going to see is a recording of the live stream that I just finished. However, make sure to tag a friend or comment or subscribe here to the channel, not just as a way to support me, but as a way to help other people find this material if you find it valuable. So with that said, feel free also to drop any questions and I'll be answering those. I always check in on my videos, so I respond to all the comments to all my videos. You know, maybe when I have 1 million subscribers or something like that, I won't be able to do that as much. But as it is now, I do have the time to do it and I really enjoy it. So if you have questions or some topic that you would like me to discuss in further detail on one of these live streams, let me know. Now with that said, welcome if you're here live and welcome if you're here on the replay. I hope you enjoy this. Take care, guys. This is a training I just finished, so I hope you enjoy it. Also, there might be like a little bit of lagginess at some point. That goes away, so don't worry about it, okay? Take care. Let me just jump over here. The overlay wasn't added. Well, this is a pain in the ass, isn't it? Hang tight just a sec, guys. Hey, JP. What's up, buddy? Nah, you didn't miss it. This is live right now. We're live. So, I'm just trying to figure out why. Oh, I see. Hang tight. Here we go. All right, here's the video, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Take care. You might want to pull out a pen and paper as well. There's a lot of material that I go through. Cheers. And thanks for commenting, JP. Feel free to ask any questions. I'll go in there directly and answer you, but I want to get to this video right now. So here we go. The time has come. What's happening, guys? Just gonna hang out here for a bit, wait for a few of you guys to come in, and then I will go into this. So what we're going to cover today is music making does not need to be complicated. So get in, hang tight, share with a friend. If you're on the replay, you can fast forward a little ways, you know, a couple minutes, as we allow for people to show up here in the live frame. All right. So if you guys are able to see and hear me, you know what to do. Just type a 1 in the chat. If you got any questions, type your questions in the chat, obviously. Anything to do with music production, we'll get into it after I kind of go through my little spiel here. Once again, the subject today is music making does not need to be complicated. All right, so hopefully I'll be able to give you some stuff to think about. You might even want to write some things down if you're so inspired. So people joining here, if you can see me, if you can hear me, then let me know. Type a 1. There's also a little bit of latency, so I might take I don't know, 30 seconds to wait after I ask a question or something like that to get a response. So just be patient with that. Let me get this autofocus. There we go. Better focused. All right. People coming in, once again, type a 1 in the chat if you can see and hear me. More and more people showing up. Type a 1 in the chat if you can see me, if you can hear me. Also, tag a friend if you want, if someone needs to hear this, or if there's a friend that you work with musically or whatever, tag them, see if they're around. Maybe they'll get something out of it. And, you know, if they aren't able to make it live, at least they'll make it for the replay. All right. Once again, we're not going to move forward until I can make sure that you can see and hear me, see my face, hear my voice. All right. So if you can see me and if you can hear me, type a 1 and we will get started. All right. While I'm waiting for you to type a 1 in the comments. All right, Craig's here. Paul's here. Paul typed a 1, so you can see and hear me. Craig, hopefully you can see and hear me as well. And all the rest of you guys that are in here. Let's get this thing happening. TJ Ruggs. Good to see you here. I think you might be new to this place. Let me know if this is the first time that you're seeing me live. That'd be good to know as well. You could just put first time or something like that. Paul Squire is here, like I said, good stuff. All right. So we're going to drink some tea, or at least I'm going to drink some tea, yerba mate specifically, with a little bit of coconut oil in there. Good stuff. Oh, cool, Paul. First time you seeing me live. Boy, are you in for a surprise. It's going to be crazy in here. Actually, no, it's going to be more chill. So let's get into this. If we're ready for this, like I said, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll try to go through them as we're doing this. If there's anything related to what I'm talking about, I'll answer those questions directly. If you have questions that aren't directly related to what I'm talking about, then we can do the Q&A after I go through the spiel. I have no idea how long I'm going to take with this. But once again, I don't want to make this complicated. If you have a pen and paper, you might want to write some of this stuff down just to keep it in your head. You know, some of this stuff you're going to feel like you know, and some of the stuff, even though you know it, realize that you haven't really been thinking about things quite in this way. All right. So our topic today, once again, is music making does not need to be complicated. All right. So I think a good way to start is type in the comments anything that you find complicated about music. All right. Or about music making, music production. What do you find complicated? And I've got a pen and paper here, so I'm going to write down your answers as well. And we can kind of address those as well as some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about here. So what do you guys find complicated or challenging with music production? You guys are doing great. You're sitting on the sidelines, listening to me ask you to do something. Getting started on Ableton. Okay, getting started on Ableton. All right. Started on Ableton. Cool. Learning a new DAW can be, Craig says, arrangement. All right. Paul says, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah, that's true. I'll just put DK, don't know what you don't know. Which is totally true. And in many cases, you don't need to know what you don't know. That's one to think about. I mean, some stuff you do need to know, but there's a lot that you don't know that you don't need to know. Anyone else? I know there's more of you in here, so all you trolls, make yourself at home. Let me know any challenges that you're having. I'll drink more tea. This process will go as quickly as you guys are able to answer questions and stuff like that. So, all right. So here's the first thing. TJ Rugg says smooth transition. So transitions. Let me continue reading. Different sections of songs, layering, arrangement, getting a full sounding track. Yeah, you pretty much got everything covered there, TJ. Transitions. Smooth. And full. All right, cool. Layering, all that stuff. Got it. Cool. So we've got some stuff that we can work with here. For all the rest of you trolls, just type a T if you're a troll and don't want to participate in the chat. Just type a T. T for trolling. Although this does work much better if you participate. All right, so Daryl said what TJ said. Okay, yeah, got it. Daryl, you didn't even type a T. You're actually participating. Appreciate that. That's awesome. Welcome. Welcome. It feels good to be part of this. It's a safe place to be. We don't bite here very often. We only bite people who don't pay attention. Garrett says, have trouble developing a style. Okay. Developing style. It's a good one. Bringing those influences together. Great. All right, so these are some of the things that you need to know. All right, and it's not as much as you would think, really. All right. Now, obviously, there's certain things within your style of music as well that you're gonna need to, get your head around. But what I'm going to talk about here is, or at least what I'm going to cover here, is going to pretty much take care of 95% of the problems. So first and foremost, you want to remember that no matter what new tool comes out, what new version of Ableton or whatever DAW you happen to be using, no matter what you're using, 80% of music production is still simply cut, copy, paste, duplicate, and delete, right? Those are the things you're going to use most. All the other stuff matters less than these basics, all right? Those are just 5 simple basics. Cut, copy, paste, duplicate, delete. Understand how to use those because you're going to use those more than anything. And with Ableton, I don't know if you know this, but you can copy and duplicate whole sections of a song. All you got to do is just put the loop here. Actually, let me show you real quick. So hopefully you guys will be able to see my screen here. I'm just going to jump over to Ableton. Where the hell are you? Hold tight just a sec. I'll just pop you up. All right. So you should be able to see Ableton now. So if you got a section of a song, right? Let's just say this is your song here, right? I've only got 2 tracks in this song, right? So let's say you've got a section here, right? You can highlight a section just on one clip, right? And hit Command L or Control L if you're using a PC. Now that this is highlighted, you can, instead of just doing like a Command X, let's say, to delete right? A section or something like that. You can do Command Shift X and it will get rid of that section. All right. So, for example, if I highlight, let's say just this area right here, if I hit Command Shift, once again, use Control if you're using a PC, but Command Shift and D, it'll duplicate. As you can see, it duplicated this whole thing. So even if you had 50 tracks, it would duplicate everything. So that's really easy there. All right. All right. Let's just jump right back into this stuff. I might as well keep this happening here. All right, cool. Tension and release. I got it, TJ. Tension and release. Excellent. Cool. So yeah, cut, copy, paste, duplicate, delete. And you can do that with whole song sections, or you can do it with, we'll just jump my face back in here. Or you can do it with individual, you know, clips and what have you, all right? All the other stuff is going to come later. And the thing is, you only want to learn what you need to get to the next place in your song. That's the best way to learn. You don't want to like start off and just like dive in. It's kind of like, you don't get an encyclopedia and decide that you're going to just read from A to Z and then hope that you retain all that information so that when you need it, it's there. It doesn't work that way, right? So what you want is you want to go, oh, I'm trying to figure out how to do this specific thing. You go and you figure that specific thing out, and then you apply it immediately, and that's going to help you remember it better. You may need to review, you know, a couple times, but putting it to use right away is great. And then you try to push yourself forward yourself without help for as far as you can go. So try to get a little outside your comfort zone. And then when you need that extra boost of information, you can go after just that one thing. And in most cases, what I would do is set a timer for 15 minutes so you don't get lost. So you give yourself 15 minutes to figure out the solution, and whatever comes in 15 minutes, you're done. That's it. You're done with learning that thing, and you're getting back into your song and pushing it to the next place. It keeps you from wasting time. So the next thing that you need to know is are the 4 essential effects. That's a need to know. Doesn't have to be super complicated, but you need to know these. And that's EQ, compression, reverb, and delay. Those are the 4 you need to teach yourself on, because those are the 4 that are going to be used in probably every song you do. There may be a case where you don't use delay. I don't think I've ever had a song where I didn't use some sort of delay, but it's possible that you just use reverb and you don't use delay. But you're always going to use EQ and compression and reverb for sure. But it's really good to know delay, because many effects that happen, like flanger and chorus and those sort of things, are actually just different types of delay happening, right? So understanding how to do this, and also understanding, like with EQ, you need reductive lessons. You need to understand what to remove from your EQ, not what to boost. If you know nothing about EQ, then I would say don't boost, just remove. And you're going to get a lot further, because what's going to happen is if you start boosting and you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to end up wanting to boost that on most of your instruments. And it's going to start making your whole mix sound tinny or over bassy or whatever it is, right? And another thing with EQ is you should probably, definitely you should only have one thing in like the, below 100 hertz range. There should only be one part that's going below that range. Maybe Well, okay, that's not 100% true. Let's say your kick and your bass, right? And maybe very periodic, but you don't want anything that's constant. You know, you want one thing at a time. Okay? So compression, you just want to learn how to listen to what the compression's doing. And you might, want to watch some videos. I actually have some videos on how to get your compression right every time. So I'm not going to get directly into all this because I want to just cover the overview. All right. Reverb. Once again, reverb is a form of delay as well. It's just very, very short delays. So, and reverb can either smooth things out so they don't sound so harsh, or they add atmosphere. Your song needs to have some sort of atmosphere. If everything's super clean, then it lacks that atmosphere. It sounds very two-dimensional. So everyone get that so far? Those 4 things? Pretty easy stuff, right? And that's what I'm trying to do here, is just make this easy. Sound design doesn't need to be very complicated either. And basically, there's a couple things that you need to know, right? I'll jump back into Ableton real quick. Feel free to make any comments or questions if you feel like it. Okay, so let me just get into an instrument here. I'll bring an operator. All right. So things that you need to know, everything you need to know you can figure out here in operator actually. So the first thing is your attack, decay, release, and sustain. Attack is, how long it takes to go from no volume up to the loudest volume, right? It's really simple, all right? Let's not overcomplicate this. So attack, if I play this, actually I gotta hold tight just a second. No, okay, we got that right. So if I arm this track, actually, I got to grab that so you guys can hear. Why can't I hear? Oh, I can't hear because it's in the headphones, but you guys should be able to hear, right? All right, so look, slow attack. Slower attack. Right? That's attack. Fast attack. Got it? Simple. Now, decay and sustain are kind of connected. So in this second part here, the time, if I move this left to right, that's the time of the decay, right? So as you can see down here, let's just do, just so you get this, let's do a 2-second decay, right? So it's going to be fast and then it's going to just fall off. Got it? That's decay. Now sustain is how loud the part is, the sound is, while after the it's done decaying. So it doesn't have to decay to silence. It can decay to a slightly lower volume, or it doesn't have to decay to a lower volume at all. It can just be full volume here. But sometimes it's a little snappier. See how it's a little bit pluckier? And then it will hold this note as long as I hold the note down, right? So if you have a sustain here, so there's just kind of this quick jump that makes kind of a little click. In fact, let me, I'll use a saw wave, something that has more harmonics, and I'll talk about that in just a sec. So there's a little snappiness here. Paul, thanks for saying this is great. Appreciate it. See, that snappy beginning, and then it just remains here. Got it. And then your release is how long it takes after you let go of the key. So if it's really short, the second I let go, it's off. But if I have like a long decay, let's say 3 seconds, when I let go, it'll start fading out over 3 seconds. Got it? So understanding that is really important, right? Because if you don't understand your decay, release, and sustain, then you're not really understanding anything about creating sounds. All right. Once again, this is an overview. This is what you need to kind of do your homework on. It's not necessarily me going in and teaching you all the details. I do definitely get into this with my Producer's Playground and other training that I offer, you know, in much more depth. And by the way, if you're interested in that, you can actually join for 7 days for $1. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. I don't want to get into any sales pitch, but if you feel called to take your training to the next level, that will be an option. Okay, so the next thing you need to understand is, now that you understand the attack, decay, release, and sustain, you have to understand different types of forms. And the big one is a sine wave. And as you can see, is going up and down. This is the smoothest of all the sound waves. All right. I'll just move this back a little bit. Now, as we add harmonics, we create different waveforms. So every waveform is oh, awesome, Paul. I'm glad you joined, man. I hope you get a ton out of it. Definitely hit me up if there's any way that I can help you during the trial. And you know, just understand that once the trial's over, we unlock like loads of other stuff. But you've got, I don't know, 70 hours worth of training videos available to you and a bunch of other downloads and stuff like that. So cool. So just remember that sine wave is the most basic form, and sine wave plus harmonics creates other types of waveforms. And there's many different types, but the basics are sine wave. And then the next would be triangle wave. And as you can see, these here, this represents harmonics that you're seeing here. So the sine wave just has the fundamental, all right? And then when we go to the triangle wave, it adds some harmonics. So as you can hear, the sound will get sharper from sine wave, then triangle wave, then a square wave, here that's sharper, and then a saw wave. And if you were wondering what these numbers are, it's just how many harmonics there are. So if I go to 64, it's going to be much brighter because there's a lot more harmonics going on. Less harmonics, less bright. Got it? So as you're listening to sounds, you can listen. You don't need to necessarily know specifically what sort of wave form you're hearing, but what you can think about is, you know, is this a sharper sound or is this a smoother sound? A smoother sound is going to lean more towards a triangle or a sine wave. A sharper sound is going to lean more towards a square wave and a saw wave. All right. And there's many other types of waveforms. So for example, check this out. If we just have a sine wave here, I can add harmonics here. Let's just do 32 harmonics. All right. So and you can look over here and see how the waveform shape actually changes with the harmonic. And as you're listening to this, you're probably hearing other notes, and they're just harmonizing notes. Sometimes they're not harmonizing notes as well. So a waveform is, once again, the basic sine wave plus harmonics. And as we go up, we got higher frequency sounds. So you can actually, this is a great tool where you can experiment with different waveform sounds, you know, and create your own user waves. But I don't want to get too far into this. I just wanted to give you the concept here. Does that make sense, guys? Hit me up. Give me an exclamation point, exclamation point, if this is making sense to you and if it's useful to you in understanding, you know, the basics of sound design. Understanding the combination of this and then the four basic EQs, the four basic effects, EQ, compression, delay, and reverb, and you're going to really be able to start breaking down what you're hearing in other songs and understanding at least the basics of how those sounds might have been created. Now, obviously, it gets more complicated because you can add more waves. So, for example, I'm going to bring this over here. This just means that this is like having four different synth sounds, basic synth sounds, kind of layering on top of each other. So we can have a sine wave here, and then we can add, let's say, a square wave. And we can mix this in. And now what you're noticing is that this sound here and this sound here can both be heard separately, even though they're playing together. So you still have the sine wave and the square wave. So sometimes if you hear kind of like a smooth bottom end, you can go, oh, that's probably a sine wave layered with some other sound, right? Sine wave is pretty typical of a layer if you're going to be layering sounds. So, you know, if you hear something that's got kind of a nice warm bottom end, oftentimes it's a sine wave layered with another sort of wave, okay? And then you have, I'm not going to dive deep into this, but you have what's called FM synthesis. And FM synthesis is basically, once this sound goes in and gets oscillated by this waveform, it's no longer the same sound, okay? So if we start here, once again, with a sine wave, and this here is a square wave, right, with the harmonics, as I mix this in, it's going to be neither the square wave or the sine wave. It's going to be a sine wave that's being modulated. Think about like a guitar running through a distortion pedal. When the distortion pedal's off and you play into an amp, you're hearing this clean sound. When you turn on the distortion pedal, everything, that whole clean sound is going through the distortion, so there's no longer a clean sound layer. That's kind of how FM synthesis works. So if I turn up this operator here, or this oscillator, you'll hear the sound change. So by using FM synthesis, you can actually kind of brighten a sound by modulating one sound with another sound. All right. So that's just a different form, but understanding this is the basic behind you being able to create interesting sounds on your own and also kind of reverse engineer. What does a waveform sound like? And what does, and is it layered, right? Is it layered with the sine wave? Does it have a warmth on the bottom, right? And let's see, James asked, any tips on types of harmonics and their effect on the sound? For example, even versus odd harmonics. Well, yeah, so what you've got with a square wave. These are even harmonics, okay? Here, let me get back to this and turn this off. All right. So that has even harmonics, and a saw wave has both even and odd harmonics. Like so, and it gives a slightly different sound. A square wave kind of gives more of a hollow sound, where a saw wave gives a little bit more of a full sound. What I would do, though, honestly, is just experiment with the operator instrument. Start with the sine wave, right? And first maybe start with 32, just less to deal with. And just listen to how each harmonic affects the fundamental harmonic. And you'll start getting an idea about even and odd harmonics. All right? Hopefully that'll help. Thanks for all the exclamation points, guys. All right, so that's waveforms. Just remember, it goes soft to sharp. So you've got the softest, which is sine wave. The second softest is, or the next softest, which is the triangle wave. Then more harmonics with a square wave, and the most harmonics with a saw wave. Okay. Well, actually, a noise wave would kind of give you all of that. So if you have a noise wave, obviously white noise is going to give you the most harmonics. All right. And sometimes you can hear that at the top of a sound. So sometimes you have a sound that is, let's say, let's just say a square wave or something, right? And so I'm just going to turn this up, this square wave. And sometimes you might hear some noise at the top. Right? Sometimes you might hear just a little bit of white noise here. If we change the decay, then we just have this like really quick. It's just clicky. Almost sounds like a hi-hat or something, right? Which you can make a hi-hat, with white noise. But you put these together, and you can get a kind of a sharper sound, just with more harmonics. Got it? So, yeah, white noise will definitely play into this as well. All right, so next thing is in making music making less complicated, you need to improve your listening skills. This is probably one of the most important things that you can do is improve your listening skills. Everything else is going to, I just figured I'd come back here on screen. Everything that you do is going to depend on how well you can listen, because everything that you're going to create is going to come from something that inspired you. A sound that inspired you. Even if it ends up different, you're inspired by it, by some sort of thing, right? So by understanding what you're listening to and being able to break down complex things into more fundamentals, you're going to be able to recreate those sounds and understand what those sounds are, right? So, for example, if you are wanting to make a trance song, right? The best thing you can do is listen to the songs that you like in that style. Listen to like 10 different songs, or listen to go to SoundCloud and listen to a whole mix. right? What you want to do, I would start with one song though, but eventually what you want to do is you want to find out what types of sounds each of these songs has in common throughout a mix, right? When you find the commonalities, then you start really understanding. Hey, Greg, you're asking about tips on wavetable. I don't think I'm going to go into wavetable too much. I might dive into it after this, answer some of your questions. But wavetable, I have a whole training on that. Wavetable is one of the things that unlocks immediately when you take the $1 trial of the Producer's Playground. I have a whole course just on wavetable, and I have, I think, like 10 other full courses. Some courses are, 15 videos. I've got some courses that are like 60 videos in one course. So there's a lot of stuff in there. But if you wanted to kind of dive deeper into the wavetable synth, that's what I would recommend. In fact, let me drop the link for you guys here. Let me see if it pops up. It should pop up. There we go. Yep. So yeah, you can hit that link, guys, and that'll give you like the promo if you guys are interested in what that has to offer. Lots of really, really good stuff there. And once again, it's just $1 to try it out for 7 days. And if you love it, only if you love it, which I think you really will, it'll unlock loads of other stuff. And then the membership is just $25 a month. All right. If you got any questions, you can feel free to ask me about that, and I'll let you know any other details. But if that sounds cool to you, getting access to loads of Ableton training, learning how to remix, learning DJing, learning performance, learning, the different instruments, all that sort of stuff, plus loads of other tools and things like that. It's pretty powerful. Okay, so yeah, so the one thing I will say about wavetable is simply that everything can become a wavetable, right? If I come to, let me just go into samples, and it doesn't matter what I drag in. This sound here, I think it's probably a kick or something like that, right? Looks like I got to turn this thing back on. Every time I get out of here, it's, no, it doesn't want to show up for me. That's weird. Well, I can't really do a sound, but if you come in super close, there's your waveform. You can actually see the up and down. So what a wavetable is it just steals like a little piece of a waveform. It can be from any sound. And you can actually steal longer bits, and with a wavetable you can have it kind of playing this part and then kind of slowly going through. So you can have like actually this much of a waveform and have it start by it's just playing like this part, and then it starts moving to this part and this part, so that the sound starts to morph as it moves through the waveform. You know what I mean? Really, really cool stuff. But I won't get too deep into that. All right. Oh shit. I didn't even go here. There we go. Right. So maybe that's the reason why. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So yeah, so you can once again come into this waveform, right? Doesn't matter what the waveform, and you can actually see the ups and downs, right? So I could literally kind of cut this waveform here. Let's get rid of this and this. It's just that little snap, right? And let's see here. Should automation. There we go. Let's see if Well, I can see that it's kind of fading this or that out. But here's the thing. You can come over into wavetable now. And instead of using their basic shapes, you can drag in your own. There we go. So now I can literally play this shape on this synth. And if I should be, let me just arm this track. And turn on the keyboard here. Sorry, I got to move things around because there's a couple windows that are open here. But this is literally playing the sound from that kick drum. And with the wavetable, you can actually have it automate. You got like an LFO here, right? That you can change the speed and that sort of thing. Once again, this isn't a training just on this, but if we come to the matrix, I can have this automate. Right? And I can change the speed. And I can change the starting point. And so forth, right? And I can come in here and make this less. It's acting weird from streaming, so the sound's not perfect. I hope that makes sense. And if you can see that product, that's a very cool use of getting interesting sounding waveforms. And I know it's like I'm kind of strobing, but hopefully you guys can hear me. It'll sort itself out. Just make sure that we're not, I want to make sure we're not backing up right now or something like that. Whatever. Okay, guys, so if you guys can still see and hear me, even though it's moving a little slowly, or at least on my end it's moving slowly, it might be working fine for you. Just let me know that you can still hear me, and we'll get into the next thing. Sometimes when I go into Ableton or something, it slows the computer down. I don't know what the issue is, but so yeah, improving your listening skills is super important. Being able to kind of break down what you're hearing. And another thing, once again, this is something that you can write down, but let's say you're hearing like a bass sound and you're trying to recreate it. I think that the best approach that you can take is to break sounds down by what's going on in the lower frequency and can I recreate that? What's going on in the middle frequencies and can I recreate that? And what's going on in the upper frequencies? And okay, cool. Looks like my screen came back. So by doing that, you can layer 3 sounds together to recreate this one complex sound. So you don't need to try to make one perfect sound. You just, even like when you're going for like a kick drum or something like that, when you hear a specific sound, if you think about things low, mid, and high, then let's say you're like, okay, there's a really smooth bottom end and it's kind of long. So it's got this kind of longer release or decay, if you will. And the middle part is punchy and it kind of sounds like wood. So it's not too sharp, that sort of thing. So we're going to look for that sort of sound. And then the upper frequency, there's kind of like a metallic click at the top. All right. So if we were able to find a sample for the bottom, the mid, and the upper frequencies, and then we could EQ accordingly. So we could remove some of the high frequency content of the lower kick drum sound, and we can remove the lows from the kick drum that has kind of more of the punch and the wooden sound. And then the click on top, we can remove lots of the lows and the mids and just retain that. We sandwich those things together and we got one strong kick, right? So by listening and understanding the details and being able to define those details, then breaking it down by low, mid, and high, you're going to get much, much further and have a lot more confidence. And you'll be able to recreate stuff simply by using like Operator or what have you. And, don't be afraid to use samples as well, to get the sounds that you're going for. You don't need to create every single thing. There's loads and loads of great samples. If you're not on it yet and you use samples or loops or what have you, I highly recommend, and I don't get anything out of this, but I highly recommend you use splice.com. It's $7.99 and you can pick from like a million different samples. The specific one, you don't have to like buy a whole sample pack. You can literally choose one snare from this sample pack and one hi-hat from this other pack, what have you. And you can, you get like 100 a month or something, samples. I think some samples might take 2 credits instead of 1 credit or something like that. But basically, you get quite a few sounds. I like to get like background atmospheres and all kinds of stuff, of course, drum sounds and stuff like that as well. So yeah, don't worry so much about sound design. You can grab samples if you're not confident yet in creating sounds from scratch, right? As you start getting into sound design, then you can start figuring out the personalities of the different synths that you have. And those personalities will be able to accommodate a sound that you're going for. A Moog certainly has its own characteristic, right? Which means that if you play a saw wave on a Moog, it's going to sound different than playing a saw wave on, let's say, a Roland synth, because the waveforms are slightly different, even though they both are basically the same thing. Hope that makes sense. You guys still with me here? If you're still with me, type a W if you're still with me here, and I'll continue. So once again, improve your listening skills. What I would do is I would sit down with a pen and paper, listen to a song like 10 different times. And every time as you're listening, don't go through and define when you're hearing these sounds. You're not worried so much about the arrangement. What you're worried about is all the separate sounds that are put together to make this overall song. What are you hearing on the high end? Is there a noisy sound? Is there something going on in the background? Is there a pad really, really low that you barely hear? Is there a bending sound? What's going on? And that is going to much better assist on you understanding what you're listening to so that you can recreate some of these ideas. And after you get to recreating, you're never going to get exact anyway, but you'll start building your own confidence for the types of sounds. And then you can, really start adding your own personality to creating your songs. All right. Another thing that I recommend when you're producing is, once we get the listening skill up to par, then we can use a reference track. And someone had mentioned, issues with arrangement, right? Well, if we use a reference track, what's great is we can see where the breaks are in the song just by the changes in the waveform. And with our song, we could start off with a loop, let's say, and just stretch that sucker out for 5 minutes or however long your reference track is. And every time you see a little kind of break in the song, you can just remove your kick drums for now, right? You can bring them back in later on, but at least you want to know where these breaks are. And once you do that, now you've got like 5 or 6 different sections to your song. So even though it's playing the same loop, you're starting to get some structure and your brain's starting to see it as a song. And you'll know that, well, before this break, this is going to happen. And after this break, something new needs to happen. And maybe after this next break, I need to remove some stuff and kind of strip the song down. And maybe after that break, we bring it back in. So you kind of are knowing what needs to happen from moment to moment, right? It just gives you much better intuition on what to do. And once again, how I showed you, you can duplicate or cut parts of your song in length. You can extend breaks or shorten breaks and really personalize it, but start off with another song, and that'll take something that would normally take you days to try to sort out, you can accomplish that in like a half hour. You know what I mean? So using a reference track is great for your sound. Now, here's a really important thing about using a reference track. You're not going for volume with your own song. In fact, you don't want your volume to ever really hit beyond like -4 or -3 dB. That should be the loudest thing, right? So you're not really going for volume. Don't try to master your track. Don't try to put compression or any sort of thing on your master track, trying to get it to sound squeezed. Fuck all that. I'm telling you. I promise you, your mixes will sound better if you don't use those things as a crutch. So with that, your reference track, since it's mastered already, there's no way that you're going to get that sort of perfect sound. So what you want to do is lower that track down like by 15 dB. So it's quite, you want it to actually be a little bit quieter than your track is. That way you're not fucking so worried about your volume level. What you're worried about more is the sound and the content of your reference track in relationship to your own song. And it's not about copying. It's just about tone. And it's about, I mean, you could certainly say, oh, I really like this rhythm. I'm going to borrow kind of that hi-hat rhythm. That's pretty cool. And when you do that, you can actually borrow from more than just your one reference track. Sometimes I'll listen to other tracks just to hear what they're doing. And I'll try to think, well, what's this doing that my song's not doing? What is giving me more interest? And I might just hear like a little percussion that's happening here and here, you know, just these couple things. And I'm like, interesting. I think I'm going to add that timing of percussion to my own song. And that way you're building and pulling from other ideas, but you're still making your own song. All right. So I hope that is helpful to you. Improve your listening skills, break things down by low, mid, and high, and then use a reference track when you're creating songs. Obviously, you're going to mute that reference track as you're listening to your song, but you're just going to check back with your reference. All right. So here's another thing is if you have a problem staying focused, the reason that you're not staying focused is because you're not setting a time limit to when you want to accomplish something. So you'll work on your song, and then you might check out a video, and then you'll work on your song, and then you might get distracted. You might go make dinner. You might, whatever it is, you know, get a snack. Much better to set a timer for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and just be conscious of that. When that 20 minutes is up, then you can go do the other thing, you know, check your Facebook or whatever the hell you're going to do. But for those 20 minutes, you want to stay really, really focused on the task. And you don't want to just be listening to your song on loop. That's not going to help you at all. You want to be using those 20 minutes to move your song from this place to this place. You can listen to a loop while you're adding some stuff, you know, and that sort of thing, but don't just sit back and be kind of non-reactive or non-productive with what you are doing with your song, right? So setting a timer can be helpful. And then after you take a quick break or whatever, you might even want to set a timer for the amount of time you're going to spend on your break, like maybe just 10 minutes to go through your social media, take out the trash, whatever the hell, you know, is coming up for you. And then get back, set a timer again for, you know, another 20 minutes or 30 minutes, even 15 minutes if you have less time. That way you focus much more on what you're doing, and you have an intention when you set that timer is like, I want to get this particular thing done. And don't give yourself a monumental task. Give yourself a task that you can realistically finish in 10 or 15 minutes, and give yourself twice the amount of time to do it. You know what I mean? So I hope that is helpful, right? Once again, let's not be overcomplicating this. Music making isn't meant to be overly complicated. What it is you need to understand how to do the things you need to understand to make your music. There's no reason that you need to learn from someone doing a completely different style right now. You know, there's no reason you need to listen to that stuff while you're making your song. What you want to do is just pull in your varying influences that are going to make up your style, right? And usually the best thing to do is pick one so that you understand that style first. So make a whole song just in that one thing before you start combining different styles. And then try another one, you incorporate the second influence, that sort of thing. That way you're understanding each influence a little bit as you go. So another thing to do as well, especially when you feel like you're starting to waste time or getting overwhelmed, is ask yourself often, what is the easy way to get this result? What is the easiest way to get this result? Or ask yourself, what is the best way to cheat to make this easier for myself? Because cheating is not cheating. We all have a concept of what cheating actually is. But the word cheating is just not allowing part of your creativity to come in. You're not allowing yourself to be influenced by a certain type of creativity. Some people say, well, I won't use loops. I got to make them all by myself. Well, that's just a limitation that you're giving yourself. And if eventually you want to do that, great. But if you're not at that point, there's no problem using loops. There's no problem using anything, you know? So yeah, don't worry about all that when you're asking yourself, what's the easy way to get this result, right? Because the one that finishes the most songs wins. That's how this game is played. The game's not played the one that spent the longest amount of time making the kick drum. That's not going to get you very far, and it's not going to be very inspiring. And if no one hears what you're doing, you're not really putting anything out into the world that's beneficial. You know, you're just running yourself around in circles. There's no problem with understanding how to make these things, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, when I'm producing as well, you know, I might add a layer where I kind of use a synth to design, let's say, a kick drum or something like that. But I'm always using samples almost all the time. Or I have tools that I've created. Some of those tools are available in the Producer's Playground as well that I link to. But those unlock if you become a full member. They're not available just for the $1. All right. So, ask yourself a question. You know, what is the easy way to get this accomplished? And I think you'll find that you'll stop your pattern of trying to make everything so complicated, right? Another thing too is you want to make decisions with your music making quickly. Just if you're choosing between A and B, just make a decision. You might be right, you might be wrong. Here's the thing, you're never going to know. It doesn't really matter. And if it ends up going in the wrong direction, then you learn something. So the next time that decision comes up, you can make a quick decision that's even more educated than the last time you made a decision. Don't sit back and try to weigh things out. Just intuitively pick one, you know? And if you really can't pick one, flip a coin and just go for that. All right? I think serendipity plays a big role in creativity. So if you can't make a decision, let serendipity make the decision for you by flipping a coin and just keep moving forward. All right. Another thing is don't worry so much about the idea that you have in your head. Use that as a starting point. But when you start finding yourself kind of beating yourself up to try to get this exact sort of sound or whatever, let that go and just allow your flow of creativity to kind of unfold, right? You could always check back with your reference track or what have you to kind of see if you're going too far off track. But just let yourself go. Let go of the original idea. Most of the time, you're not going to get there anyway. And most of the time, you're going to do something much more interesting by just letting that go. So that's a really powerful one. And it'll make things much less complicated for you because now you don't need to do this, 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 and this, and this. You've got your basics set up from this original idea that maybe you had in your head or something from another song. And then you start building something new from it, right? Make decisions quickly, allow yourself to make mistakes, and don't try so hard to get everything that's in your head out. get the basic idea, and then understand that that's the only purpose of this idea that you had, is to get you started. And then let that influence you instead of what's in your head. Okay? Next, so that all this stuff kind of incorporates in your head and becomes less and less complicated for you, you should really try to sit down at least 15 minutes a day with your music. You know, if you don't have much time, 15 minutes, you can do 15 minutes. Everyone can do 15 minutes, right? It might seem inconvenient to do, but if your music really matters to you, you can do 15 minutes. And do it as much as possible every day, and you're going to be repeating these habits. And these things that seem hard right now, I guarantee after about a week or two of doing this daily, you're going to think, wow, that just got super easy. Why did that happen? And the reason it happened is because your brain never likes to do new things. But when it does something in repetition, it puts it back in your memory bank. And once it's in the memory bank, your brain doesn't think about it as something new. It thinks about it as something that is automatic. And once you get there, all these problems like kind of go away. All right. And then the last couple things is, although I don't recommend you join free forums and too many free groups unless it's a really supportive atmosphere, I do recommend that you try to find a like-minded community of people that have the same goals, that have similar struggles, or have gone through similar struggles, because it will keep you focused. You know, in fact, finding someone that can be like your accountability buddy. You both don't need to produce together or even have the same style of music, but you can both connect, you know, once or twice a week. Make sure that the other person is like kicking ass, you know, that continuing to write, continuing to take their music forward, you know, and you can support each other in that and kind of kick each other's ass to keep yourself on that level. Doing it alone can be pretty isolating, and it's really easy to fall off because letting yourself down, that doesn't hurt quite as much as letting someone else down. So it's really good to connect with people in a community and make a commitment to those people. And that commitment will be a lot stronger. And then the last thing that I would say is, you know, if you feel like you're at that level and you're ready to really invest, and music, if music really is your passion, then you're going to need to go to the next level in most cases. You could either take the 10-year path, you know, and I've gone down that path, or you can take a 6-month to 1 year path with a mentor, you know. Sure, it's going to cost you money. You know, a time machine does cost a little bit of money, but when you're able to skip a decade worth of training and get that in 6 months to a year, think about how much you can gain from that. It's not about the money you're losing. You can make a lot more money by having this experience. And it's not really even about the money either. It's about the satisfaction of doing something that you love and that flowing through your system, you know. When you get to that place where you feel really comfortable with your creativity, it just puts your whole sense of self in another place. So you might consider doing that if you really feel that music needs to be a bigger part of your life, right? It's worth the investment. I just personally invested $3,500. It's the most I've ever invested in a coach. It's not a music coach, but it's kind of more a business and life coach. And to be honest, I didn't really have that money to spend. But the moment I did it, my whole brain shifted. And the training I'm getting is already shifting my body. And I just know for a fact that in the next 3 to 6 months, it's going to be completely transformative to me. And the expense is going to seem like nothing to me later on. Right now, it's scary. Right now, going through this is scary because I'm evolving past that point where I normally say no to things, right? But I've never regretted investing in myself. It's got me to this place where I am now. You know what I mean? And I'm not in a perfect place. I'm going to continue, you know, after I go to this place, I'll either stay with these coaches and probably spend more money with them and get to a higher level, or find other coaches to like really improve different areas of my life so that I can be there for you guys. You know what I mean? Whether it's free or paid, I want to be more available to you guys. I want my, I don't want to feel like I need anything from you guys. You know what I mean? I want to feel like I'm free to give, and whether you guys want to take it further with me or not doesn't really matter so much to me anymore. You know what I mean? The right people are going to find it. And, you know, the people where they're not connected, that's totally fine. But I'm just saying that, you know, I came from a place of being very, very poor. So I had a really poor attitude towards money, you know, and that sort of stuff. So I just wanted to talk about that because I know with a lot of you, making music and investing in yourself are like two completely separate things. And I think that you need to bring those together in some way. Certainly the first investment is your emotion and your time, you know, but as you get more and more committed, you may find that you want to take that time machine ride to get someone else's experience. You're trading your money for someone else's experience. You know what I mean? Are you guys with me still? Is this all making sense? Let me know. I'll sit back here while the latency kind of goes through. Drink my tea. If you guys are with me still, would love to hear from you guys. And I really enjoy doing these live streams as well. You know, I think, you know, my goal is to help you guys and at least give you a starting point of finding what you need to improve on. You know what I mean? So I appreciate the thumbs up. Thumbs ups are good. I prefer comments, but thumbs up are great. You know, it just lets me know that you're here. So yeah, we're all in this together, this whole music game. We're all in it together, you know, and I'm here to help you guys quite a bit. I'm going to one more time drop the link here for any of you guys, because here's the thing. If you really want to get further and you're not willing to put $1 into that, even if you cancel, you know, even if you cancel afterward, I know you're going to get a lot of benefit. But here's the thing is that I'm going to free you just by putting $1 into yourself, right? It's going to free you kind of from saying no all the time. How many times do you say no to things and just block it out? What happens in your body when you say no? What happens to you creatively when your body says no? You know what I mean? Okay, I'm going to tell you something really embarrassing, just so you know where I come from, right? I had such a bad relationship with money that I would go to the grocery store and, you know, I would buy, obviously, the cheapest apples. Back then, I wasn't doing anything organic either. You know, I try to eat organic quite a bit now. But, you know, that was a big no for me, too much money. But I'd get, like, the cheapest apples. And then, you know, you put them in the plastic bag, right? I would tie the bag. I refused to use a twisty. All right. This is going to sound so ridiculous, but this is how bad my mental state was with money. The reason I didn't use the twisty was I was convinced that was their way of subtly adding weight to the vegetables or the fruit. And I wasn't going to pay for that extra weight. I wasn't going to be ripped off by them trying to get me to add extra weight to my bag with a twisty. So go ahead, laugh at me. I've been where, no matter where you guys are at, I've been there, right? But you guys agree that's fucking ridiculous, right? The first big thing that I remember doing for myself, as far as changing my money habits, first thing I did was I bought a better brand of spaghetti sauce. That was the first thing I did. And that alone, believe it or not, started this shift. and made me less afraid to bet on myself, right? That led to me maybe spending $7 for an ebook, you know what I mean, that I thought might help me. That led me to spend $50 on something that helped me even more. And that goes all the way up to now, spending $3,500 with a coach. I would have said that was impossible for me to do before. And I would have probably found out a million reasons why it was a total fucking ripoff to spend that kind of money with someone. You know what I mean? So I just want you to kind of sit with that as well. You know what I mean? If you're not investing in yourself, or if your investment is in toys, when you haven't really learned all the fundamentals, but you keep buying toys, you need to ask yourself, is that getting you further? I love toys, don't get me wrong, but lately I've kind of limited myself. I've got enough. I really do. And I promised myself after I bought Omnisphere that I'm just going to be done for quite a while. There's so much that synth can do by itself. And there's so much that Ableton can do. I still use Ableton stuff probably 70 to 80% of everything I use, maybe even more. So I know that I don't need this extra stuff. But it's fun, and I'm a geek, and whatever, we're all geeks. But I hope that makes sense to you guys. Did that make sense to you guys? Did you get something out of this? Now would be a time to ask me any questions that you have. All right? If you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. And if you're on the replay as well, you could still drop them in the comments. I'll go back through and I'll answer your questions, okay? So don't worry so much about that. I am very active in this group, and my goal is always to give as much value as I can. And answering your questions can be very helpful. I know that. I wish I had someone answering my questions as they came earlier in my life, which is why now I invest more in coaches and stuff like that, because I realize every time I do that, it like jumps my life way further than I thought. Plus, I don't even know if I would get there, because sometimes it takes a coach to find my blind spots, things that I don't know that I don't know, right? So it's possible that I would have never gotten to some of the places that I'm at now without someone else seeing me from the outside. That is it, guys. Back to the original subject. Music making does not need to be complicated. Feel free to go back and watch this as many times as you like. This is free for you guys to watch as many times as you like. Please, if you get something out of this, share it with a friend. Maybe they can find some use with this as well. I love to have this kind of content shared. And if you've got any questions right now, or if you have questions that come up later, or once again, if you're on the replay, then drop them in the comments. I'm here to help. All right, guys, I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to ask any questions that you have. And then I'm going to finish my tea and go on to the next thing in my day. Hey, Craig. Yeah, so if you go to the page for the $1 trial, it will show you what all is in the producer's playground, and it's a shit ton of stuff, so I can't really even tell you everything. One thing that'll unlock is your first month of the Ultimate Master template for Ableton. It's massive. It took me thousands of hours to put that together. And I just made version 2.0. And every month it's going to unlock more presets, more sounds, more tools, and that sort of thing. So that's one thing. There's something called producer kits, where I literally give you all my instruments. I put them in samplers and drum kits, so you can use my bass tones, my drums, my whatever, to make your own songs. Because you can completely play my bass sound, but make your own parts completely. So you don't need to you're not redoing my song. You're just getting a kit. And I do this with other artists as well, to get you access to those other styles. Yeah, Craig, I know you signed up for the $1. So yeah, you're gonna have a lot of stuff unlocked for you. Just go into the producer's playground and you'll see all the stuff that is available. It just when you click on it now, you're not going to get access to some of that stuff, but you will get access to a good amount of it when you become a full member. So yeah. And welcome. I hope you're getting a lot out of the $1 training as it is. There's tons of stuff there. So, and you can hit me up privately as well. Cool. Any other questions? Questions about the playground or questions about music production? I'm here. You're very welcome, Craig, and welcome. It's really, really good to have you. You're inside the group as well, right? You added yourself to the Facebook group. I think I added you, but you can let me know if that's not correct. All right, James, cool. Let's see. As far as releasing tracks, any advice on the options? DistroKid, Bandcamp, Beatport, labels. Yeah, so James, what I would do is... Danielle, I got your question, so I'll read that in just a second. Okay, buddy? Let me just get back to this here. So I would definitely start a Bandcamp, right? It's a great place to be, both for digital and physical. That's a great place to release stuff. So here's what I would do is if you sign to a label, right? Because you're going to build a reputation, it's really good to sign to a label unless you want to spend money on advertising yourself and build your own fan base, which there's advantages and disadvantages to that. The disadvantage is most people don't yet know how to promote themselves with paid advertisement, so you can end up losing money up front as you're learning. It might be more helpful to sign to some labels that have a bit more of a reputation, especially if you haven't signed to them. But what I would make kind of a deal with them, right? So, and I'm going to get into DistroKid as well. DistroKid's a really good place to get your stuff on Spotify and Apple Music in a way where you can get paid for your plays. And obviously, you're not going to make much money from that. But if you get on bigger playlists, you'd be surprised. You can, $50 a month or something like that. If you get on a big playlist, is that's more than nothing, right? So what I would do is make deals with your label, saying, look, I want to make this exclusively available to you for 3 months, right? Because look, labels put your stuff out, it peaks, and within a couple weeks, it often falls back down. So if you get into the charts, that's just a good, it's a good promotional tool. You know what I mean? You're not going to make money with the labels. Even if you start your own label, there's costs for mastering and different things like that. But yeah, so I've signed to a number of labels on Beatport. The issue is that my stuff is available on Spotify through the label. So they are the ones that get paid for the streaming, not me. Not that I'm losing a lot of money, but I'm certainly losing what I should get. So what I'm trying to do now is get those removed so that I can use DistroKid and add those tracks myself, so that as they get played or added to playlists, I'll be the one that's getting the benefit directly, not the label, right? So if I were to sign to a label, I would ask them not to put the stuff on Spotify or Apple Music. I would do that personally with DistroKid, but I would do them the favor of waiting for a few months before I put new releases up. Okay? And you might even be able to do it for 1 month, just see what the label says. Often they don't really care that much. Okay? Especially smaller labels. Obviously, if you sign to a bigger label, let them do whatever they're going to do, because that could like really explode your fan base, by being a part of this bigger label. But if you're signed to smaller labels, which is what's going to happen most of the time, That's what I would recommend. And then obviously you have your Spotify, and then you also have your Bandcamp. Bandcamp, you should have physical products available, because that's going to help differentiate between them streaming you and having something physical that they would be willing to buy from you. I mean, of course, have the digital available as well, but that is my take on this, because streaming's not going to go away. So we have to figure out how to monetize that for ourselves as well, and how to build our own fan base. Hope that helped, James. Daniel, do I know much about 3D sounds? I've got this crazy idea, set up 8 speakers. Okay, well, I don't really. And what you would almost more often use are tools that you would use for movie making. You know what I mean? That has a 5-to-1 or 8-to-1 surround sound that will go, through the system. And it's a really cool idea. However, understand that 98% of people, well, I might be wrong, but I would say 80% of people are not going to have the system to play the surround sound, right? But there's a lot of cool things that you can do as well. I don't know if you've heard of a band called Flaming Lips, but they did something that was pretty cool years ago, where they released a CD of music, but the music was split into 4 CDs, right? And each CD played different instruments, all right? So what the rule was is everyone, you and your friends would each grab a boombox, right? Put the CDs in each of the boom boxes and place them in different locations and hit play at the exact same time. And now you're getting this surround sound, kind of a DIY version of surround sound. Just as long as you all hit play at the same time, you're getting this surround sound without needing like a surround sound system. You know what I mean? So it makes it available to more people. But if you want to do 5-to-1 or 8-to-1, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I really think that it's just about having the software. If you understand how to use Ableton or any other DAW, it's probably just like that, only you have many more choices of where you're putting sounds. Okay? So I hope that helps, Daniel. I hope that gives you an idea as well. I'd love to hear what becomes of that. There's also, effects that do surround, that sound like surround sound. Like you could put your headphones on and it sounds like it's going around your head. There's certain plugins that'll do that. There's definitely some different options. I hope that helps. With that, guys, I'm going to head out. So have a fantastic day, and hope to speak to you guys real soon. If you haven't liked the page for any reason and you came to this from someone else, make sure to like the page as well. I try to do these live streams every so often. I do this sort of stuff. I also go into breaking down songs that I've done, all the separate parts, so that you understand more about layering and EQing and that sort of thing. And once again, if you would like to work with me more, you can join the Producer's Playground. It's just $1 to try the trial. There's loads of stuff. I'm not going to try to sell it to you, but it is for $1. You really can't go wrong. And if you want to get to the next level for yourself, that would be a really great place to start. Feel free to ask me any questions. You can hit me up privately as well. If you'd like to do a one-on-one session, if you want to talk directly with me, you can go to musicsoftwaretraining.com/application and just fill out a questionnaire, and I'll respond to you usually within 48 to 72 hours, and we can set up a time where we can chat for free, okay? Usually about 30-minute chat, and then I can see how I could best help you, or if I can help you, you know what I mean? There's really no pressure at all. So there you have it, guys. Have a fantastic one, and I'll speak to you guys soon.